Alright guys, so Fortnite just dropped the very first update of Chapter 7, and I'm not kidding or over-exaggerating when I say this. The storyline is already going crazy, and we're only the first update into Chapter 7. We just got a brand new giant lore map change, and Dark Voyager has literally taken over an entire POI, like a full rebrand of one of the most important POIs on this new map. The Cube Cradle has moved, and it's back in the first place. It's hovering above the shard right now. The POI also has a new name, and the 0-point shard is also behaving in a way that we have not seen before on the Golden Coast. And the more that you look at this update and the more that we'll go into it in this video, the more obvious it becomes. The Dark Voyager is not just back on the island, but he is manipulating the 0-point, and he's absolutely gonna be causing harm to the Golden Coast and whatever he ends up doing with what is left of the 0-point. There's a lot to break down here, you guys, and trust me, you're gonna want the full context because this storyline is already getting deep and we're barely even 2 weeks into Chapter 7. So there was a lot that happened in this update today, and if you watched my video from yesterday going over everything, we're seeing OG Season 7, a giant Ninjago update, but something none of us was expecting was something this big on the Chapter 7 map to already be starting. There's a POI on the Chapter 7 map when it came out called Innoloop Labs. It's basically this high-tech research facility where Jones and Hope actually dropped off one of the 0 shards when we got it after the event, basically to kind of work with them to help them find the other shards, investigate it, whatever they were doing. And by the way, I initially thought that that was really weird already because they clearly didn't trust the place. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it was very clear in their dialogues that Jones and Hope really didn't know what to think of Innoloop Labs, and other characters in the map really said that they weren't sure about it, that they had redacted files. They were just a little bit fishy. But in today's update though, Innoloop Labs has been completely taken over. The Cube Cradle, the mini one, not the one from back in the day, is basically Dark Voyager's ship, and it's literally docked itself above the POI. And because of that, the entire area has been renamed to Lethal Labs. It's like Dark Voyager has went through and taken down all the Innoloop Labs branding, completely maybe even taken down the buildings and built up new ones because they're more darker, have a different aesthetic overall. The lighting is different, the logo changed to this cube themed symbol. All the screens inside are now showing golden cube patterns. It feels like a full The Last Reality takeover overall. What I think is really cool is that we're not just going to see the Cube Cradle flying high in the sky and we're not going to be able to interact with it. We're actually actively able to interact with this. It's going to do things to players. It's going to shoot a beam. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but you're actually also able to kind of bounce off of it if you use the wingsuit to get up close to it. I'm really glad that there is some interactivity with it. I think that's really cool. Now, this is something that I really haven't seen a lot of people pick up on, and it really kind of tells you about the motivations behind why the Dark Voyager took over Innoloop Labs and what he's actually doing now that it's his. The 0 shard in the middle of the POI that was suspended with those weird mechanisms is now rotating in mid-air, and it's kind of a louder sound now when you get near it. Before this update, it was just completely still. It was just suspended there, untouched, like they were just monitoring it or keeping it there just for the sake of having it stuck in the air. But now after Dark Voyager took over, the shard is spinning like something is actively powering it or messing with it or just manipulating it in some way. And because this only started after the takeover, the rotating, it basically confirms that the Voyager is tampering with the shard. He is manipulating it, using it in some way, and it's not an environmental change. It's a direct reaction to the Cube Cradle arriving or whatever the Dark Voyager has done to change these mechanisms around it to manipulate it to make it attract something or something like that. Now, in Innoloop Labs, when you go over to all of these screens and all of the new stuff that's there, I guess the same sort of stuff is just kind of rebranded around the Dark Voyager, something really interesting sticks out. And it looks like he's not really focused on the shard itself. Instead, he's paying more attention to the devices that are around the shard. All of these new mechanisms that are kind of channeling the 0-point energy into the accelerators underground or just kind of harnessing it, keeping it there, whatever it may be. Now, the screens show kind of diagrams of cube-powered machinery, energy channels, and these golden patterns that match the Last Reality tech, but more importantly, there's a breakdown of these little things that are actually holding up the 0-point shard. And what a lot of people are thinking, and honestly this makes total sense, this was my theory to begin with, is that the Voyager is trying to use these mechanisms to turn the shard into a magnet to attract the other ones. We already know there's about 4 0 shards total, I think, and leaks say that we're going to actually see more later on in the season, that they're going to actually try to rebuild the 0-point on the Chapter 7 map with these different shards that they collect. So the idea is the Voyager could literally be powering this shard or using it in some way so it pulls the other 3 shards toward it so they can eventually rebuild it on the map. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially seeing as it's kind of spinning now, just goes to show that they are manipulating it in some way. Now let's take a little bit of a step back to make sure that people don't forget this, or if you haven't been playing Fortnite or paying attention to the lore, you may have not even know this, but a few days before this update, the Dark Voyager and his cube Cradle literally disappeared from the map. Like the ship was just gone, completely missing, like poof out of thin air, and nobody really knew exactly why. But now after this update, it basically lines up perfectly with the theory that a lot of people had. The Voyager wasn't necessarily gone, he was just busy in another reality. It looks like he went to the OG reality to retrieve the new Void Walker Link skin, which is in the OG pass, and we see in this loading screen right here helping him find the shards, who we now know is part of the last reality through this information. And today's update basically confirms it. He probably went there, came back with links, and the very first thing he did was completely take over Innoloop Labs. So this wasn't necessarily random. The Voyager leaving the island was part of the plan, and whatever he did out there gave him the confidence to return and reveal himself and, you know, completely take this over, because he could have done this to Innoloop Labs at any point. It's been multiple days. He was here before we even got here. He could have done this a long time ago, but maybe because now he has one of his minions, I guess, going after all these other shards, searching for them, helping him out, maybe keeping people in the island in line. Maybe now he just got the confidence to end up doing this. I think that's a pretty cool theory. But the cube Cradle itself, the actual ship, is not done changing. It's going to evolve pretty soon. Right now, of course, it's closed. It looks exactly the same as it was. But in the files, the actual center of it, this little cube shape, is referred to as an eye. That's why every time we see it, like looking at something or investigating something, it's pointed directly at it. And data miners have actually found animations of the bottom of it actually opening up. And once it opened, it reveals what looks like a sort of cannon, like an actual weapon mounted inside of the cradle. So if that's the case, this thing is not just simply watching the island. It is actually going to start interacting with it. Maybe, you know, this thing will be used to target the 0 point shard. Maybe it'll be used to abduct something. Things like that. Not really sure exactly why, but what we do know is that the cube Cradle is going to have gameplay features. It's going to scan and mark players every once in a while. It's going to fire a beam pulse randomly that is actually going to, you know, actually hurt players and even knock them back as well. So I really like that this isn't just a passive like lore piece in the sky, so just something random in the sky. It's actually going to be an active threat to you when you're in this POI. I think that's really, really cool. So it's clear at this point that the Dark Voyager as well as Voidwalker Lynx in the last reality have very bad intentions with this. We should not allow the last reality to have control of the 0 point or even one of the shard, not even a splinter of the shard. So this brings up the biggest question for me, and something that I was thinking about before recording this when I was researching and everything. Why did Jones and Hope give Innoloop Labs the 0 shard in the first place? Now I know a lot of you may be thinking maybe they didn't give him that in the first place. Maybe they just took it from them, but we know that Jones is actively at Innoloop Labs, so he has to be, you know, corresponding with them, working with them in some way, which obviously would mean Hope is as well, because they're kind of like a tandem team. Because if Voyager was already connected to this place, shouldn't they have noticed something was off? And that's something that has happened too. Jones and Hope have said that they have something off about the Dark Voyager guy. They're not really sure how to feel about Innoloop Labs as well at the beginning of the season. But here is what I think is going on, and honestly, it really does explain everything. And this isn't confirmed, it's just a theory, but I believe that Innoloop Labs, even when we originally got to this island, it wasn't connected to the last reality at all. I think they definitely started out as an independent, you know, island-focused technology agency, basically a group that wanted to study the 0 point responsively, you know, advance the island, advance technology, things like that. So Jones and Hope probably trusted the idea of Innoloop, and when we got here, maybe they weren't necessarily, you know, obviously taken over by the last reality, but maybe Dark Voyager was pulling the strings behind the scenes. Maybe they just didn't realize that the Voyager had already infiltrated it or something like that, because it definitely wasn't obvious when you walked around the map before this update. And once he had full control, you know, he had the systems, the technology, he had the minion that he wanted, that's when he made his move and revealed himself. The fact that he's openly using their equipment now pretty much confirms he was hiding in the background this whole time, being the one who was actually doing what Innoloop Labs was doing. And Link's being with him now makes even more sense. He just had the confidence to do this, and now he knows he has other people while he focuses on the shard and advancing whatever they're trying to do. He has other people that can hold others down. So where exactly is this all heading, and what should you expect for the rest of Chapter 7 at Season 1? So the Voyager is clearly trying to gather other 0 shards and rebuild the 0 point, and leaks say that 3 shards will eventually end up at Lethal Labs at some point. Do not know exactly when. He's powering up the accelerators, the particle accelerator beneath the POI, which is going to be used in some way. Maybe that's what's actually powering the whole thing. That would actually make a lot of sense to actually allow it to rotate and be used as a magnet. Of course, it's rotating as well. The energy is probably becoming a little bit more unstable. His cube Cradle is going to open and start firing pulses at some some point it's going to do something like that. Everything points to Chapter 7 having a huge Last Reality event, or either like a mid-season event, like a mini event or something like that. I don't see a way Chapter 7 Season 1 ends without an event with all of this buildup, and I think it's really awesome that this is only the first update of the season. This is the most exciting the Fortnite storyline has had in a very long time, and it's happening way faster than I expected, but having him as a villain is so cool. Can't wait to see what they do with that, along with the connection to OG. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like. You watched all the way to the end. You must have enjoyed, so drop a like. Subscribe to the channel. I make videos like these every single day. Use code Prozero on the Fortnite item shop, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.